"Defending LeBron James is no different than stopping any normal player," said Kawhi Leonard confidently during the special NBA TV program. Sitting on the other side of the studio, LeBron James raised his eyebrows and chuckled slightly. "Is that really what you think, Kawhi?" LeBron asked. "I don't think you felt it was that easy when we faced each other on the court," Leonard responded coolly. "With the right approach, you can neutralize him. It's never been a major challenge for me." Just as this tense moment unfolded, a producer rushed over to host Matt Weiner with a tablet. Weiner's facial expression changed as he viewed what was on the screen. "Kawhi, can you explain these images?" Weiner asked, extending the tablet toward Leonard. LeBron leaned forward, trying to peek at the screen curiously.
Welcome to the Famous Stories channel. Whatever city you're watching from, please write it in the comments below. If you're curious about unknown and never-before-heard truths, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like our videos. The studio lights at NBA TV's Atlanta headquarters cast a warm glow across the polished set, meticulously prepared for a special edition of the network's newest program format. Rivals Face to Face had been heavily promoted across all social media platforms for weeks, promising basketball fans unprecedented access to the candid conversations between the league's biggest stars. Tonight's episode featured two of the most dominant forces in modern basketball, LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard.
Behind the scenes, producers scurried about, making last-minute adjustments to lighting and sound. The stakes were high. This was the premiere episode of a format the network hoped would become their flagship program. In the green room, makeup artists applied final touches to both superstars while production assistants reviewed talking points with the show's host, Matt Weiner. "We've got a packed house," one assistant informed Weiner, handing him updated notes. "And social media engagement is already through the roof. Rivals Face to Face is trending nationwide." Weiner nodded, reviewing his cards one last time. A veteran broadcaster with over 2 decades of experience covering the NBA, he understood the delicate balance required for this interview. LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard represented a fascinating contrast, not just in playing styles but in personality and public persona. Getting the notoriously reserved Leonard to engage meaningfully would be challenging enough. Creating genuine interaction between these two competitors would be the true test of the format. At precisely 8:00 p.m. Eastern Time, the studio lights brightened, cameras began rolling, and the show's dramatic theme music played as the program went live to millions of viewers across America and around the globe. The studio audience erupted in applause as Weiner welcomed viewers. The set design was modern and minimalist. 3 sleek chairs arranged in a semicircle, with a massive NBA logo illuminated on the floor between them. Multiple screens displaying career highlights and statistics created a dynamic backdrop. "Good evening and welcome to the premiere episode of Rivals Face to Face on NBA TV," Weiner began, his voice carrying the perfect blend of enthusiasm and gravitas. "I'm Matt Weiner, and tonight we're honored to host 2 of the greatest players of this generation, perhaps any generation." As the camera panned across the set, viewers got their first look at the 2 superstars seated opposite each other. The visual contrast was striking and seemed to perfectly encapsulate their public personas. LeBron James sat relaxed in his chair, dressed in a tailored bright orange suit that somehow looked both fashionable and completely natural on his 6 feet. His posture was open, legs casually crossed, one arm stretched along the back of his chair, the body language of someone completely comfortable in the spotlight. At 38, with traces of gray in his well-groomed beard, James carried himself with the easy confidence of a man who had spent more than half his life in the public eye. Across from him, Kawhi Leonard presented an entirely different energy. Dressed in a conservative navy suit with minimal accessories, Leonard sat upright, hands resting on his knees. His expression was, as always, nearly impossible to read, a blank canvas that had spawned countless memes and earned him the nickname The Robot. At 31, Leonard was in his physical prime, but his demeanor suggested the quiet focus of someone who viewed this media appearance as simply another professional obligation. "On my left," Weiner continued, "a man who needs no introduction, 4-time NBA champion, 4-time MVP, and the NBA's all-time leading scorer, from the Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron James." The audience erupted in cheers, as James acknowledged them with his signature smile and a small wave. And on my right, a two-time NBA champion, two-time Finals MVP, and two-time Defensive Player of the Year, from the Los Angeles Clippers, Kawhi Leonard. Leonard responded with a slight nod, his expression unchanging, as the audience applauded enthusiastically. "Gentlemen, thank you both for being here for our premiere episode," said Weiner, settling into his chair. "This program is about exploring the rivalries that define our league, and while you two represent different teams in the same city, you're also frequently compared as two of the most complete players in the game, elite on both ends of the floor." LeBron nodded in agreement while Kawhi remained still, his eyes focused intently on Weiner. "I'd like to start with the defensive side of the ball, where both of you have built stellar reputations. Kawhi, you've been named Defensive Player of the Year twice, and you're often assigned to guard the opponent's best player. LeBron, throughout your career, you've been an elite defender capable of guarding all 5 positions. Kawhi, I'll begin with you. What's it like defending a multifaceted player like LeBron?" Leonard paused for a moment, seemingly collecting his thoughts. When he spoke, his voice carried its characteristic flatness, soft, measured, and almost monotone. "Defense is the mental part of the game," he said. "Every player has strengths and weaknesses, including LeBron." Weiner, recognizing the brevity of the response, probed further. "Could you elaborate on that? How is defending LeBron different from guarding other superstars in the league?" Kawhi considered the question, his face betraying no emotion. Then, with unexpected assertiveness, he delivered a response that would send shockwaves through the basketball world. "Defending LeBron James is no different than stopping any normal player," he said with surprising confidence. "At the end of the day, he's human like everyone else. If you apply the right defensive principles, if you approach it correctly, you can neutralize him. It's never been a major challenge for me." A palpable tension instantly filled the studio. This dismissive assessment from Leonard, typically known for giving opponents their due respect, caught everyone off guard. A murmur spread through the audience, and several people exchanged surprised glances. The producers in the control room immediately signaled to camera operators to capture LeBron's reaction. James, whose competitive fire was legendary, raised his eyebrows and gave a slight chuckle. His body language shifted subtly. He sat up straighter, leaning slightly forward, his eyes now locked on Leonard with newfound intensity. "Is that really what you think, Kawhi?" LeBron asked, his voice calm but with an unmistakable edge. "I don't think you felt it was that easy when we faced each other on the court. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I've had some pretty decent games against your defense over the years." The audience responded with a collective "ooh," sensing the brewing tension between the two superstars. This was exactly the kind of authentic moment the producers had hoped for, though few expected it to come so early in the program, and from the typically reserved Leonard no less. Kawhi's expression remained unchanged, as he replied coolly, "With the right approach, you can neutralize him. It's never been a major challenge for me." The repetition of his claim only amplified its audacity. In the control room, producers could hardly believe their luck. The usually stoic Leonard had just provided the kind of provocative soundbite that would dominate sports talk shows for days. Weiner, a consummate professional, recognized the golden television moment unfolding before him. Rather than immediately diffusing the tension, he allowed it to simmer, knowing viewers would be riveted by this unexpected clash of titans. "LeBron, you've faced many elite defenders throughout your career," Weiner said, turning to James. "How would you rate Kawhi among them?" James took a moment before responding, his eyes still fixed on Leonard. "Throughout my career, I've faced some incredible defenders, Kawhi among them," he acknowledged diplomatically. "I've always believed that great players elevate each other. When I face elite defenders like Kawhi, it forces me to be better, to be more creative. That's the beauty of competition at the highest level." The response was classic LeBron, respectful yet subtly asserting his own greatness. The underlying message was clear. No single defender, not even Kawhi Leonard, could truly stop him. The studio audience seemed to appreciate the controlled intensity of the exchange, and several nodded in agreement with James's diplomatic assessment. Yet the tension between the two superstars remained palpable. Just as this compelling drama was unfolding, something unexpected happened behind the scenes. A production assistant hurriedly approached Weiner from off-camera, whispered urgently in his ear, and handed him a tablet. The interruption was unusual for a live broadcast, indicating something significant had occurred. Weiner glanced down at the tablet, and his expression transformed as he processed what he was seeing. First curiosity, then surprise, and finally a subtle smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. "Gentlemen, we need to pause for a moment," Weiner said, his voice carrying a hint of excitement. "Something extraordinary has just happened. One of our viewers has sent us some very interesting footage that directly relates to our current discussion." The studio audience stirred with anticipation. Kawhi Leonard's expression changed for the first time, his eyebrows furrowed slightly, and a flicker of what appeared to be concern crossed his face. LeBron, meanwhile, leaned forward with evident curiosity, attempting to glimpse the tablet's screen. "Kawhi, can you explain these images?" Weiner asked, extending the tablet toward Leonard. As the camera zoomed in to capture Leonard's reaction, viewers at home could see his typically impassive facade begin to crack. A barely perceptible tension appeared around his eyes, and his jaw tightened slightly. For Kawhi, this was the equivalent of extreme discomfort. Weiner turned to address the audience and viewers at home. "What we've just received appears to be footage from a Clippers team defensive meeting prior to their playoff series against the Lakers last season. The video is dated April of last year. Let's share this with our viewers on the big screen." The massive screen behind them illuminated with footage showing what was clearly a Clippers team meeting room. Coach Tyronn Lue stood at a whiteboard that featured LeBron James's photo surrounded by various defensive diagrams and arrows. Seated a semicircle were Clippers players and coaching staff. The camera angle focused particularly on Kawhi Leonard, who sat attentively in the front row. The audio was surprisingly clear, allowing Ty Lue's voice to be heard throughout the studio. "All right, now let's address our biggest challenge, LeBron James. Kawhi, you've faced him more than anyone on our roster. What's your assessment?" The studio audience fell completely silent, collectively holding their breath as they waited to hear what the Kawhi in the video would say. The same man who moments ago had claimed that defending LeBron was no different than stopping any normal player. The video continued, and Leonard's voice came through clearly as he addressed his teammates in the meeting. "LeBron is one of the most difficult defensive assignments in the league," said video Kawhi, his tone serious and respectful. "You can't stop him physically. He's too strong, too smart, and his court vision is unmatched. Defending him requires a five-man effort, not just one person." The juxtaposition between these words and what Leonard had claimed just minutes earlier in the studio was striking. The audience reacted with a collective gasp, followed by murmurs and a few stifled laughs. The cameras quickly cut to the live Kawhi Leonard, whose eyes had narrowed slightly, a significant display of emotion for him. In the video, Coach Lue continued, "So how do we contain him?" "You don't contain him," video Kawhi replied, his voice now carrying unmistakable respect. "You can only try to slow him down. You try to make him take tough shots. But he's the best passing big man in the league. If you collapse on him, he finds the open teammate. If you give him space, he scores. He has an answer for everything." Other Clippers players in the video were nodding in agreement. Paul George spoke up. "Defending him in the 2020 finals was the toughest assignment of my career. You can't guard him one-on-one." The footage continued with Ty Lue concluding, "There's no perfect defensive plan against LeBron James. We're just trying to minimize the damage. Kawhi, we need you to make it as difficult as possible for him. But let's be realistic. He's essentially an unstoppable player." As the video ended, the studio remained silent for several seconds. Then gradually, whispers and chuckles spread throughout the audience. The cameras turned to LeBron James, whose face now displayed a broad smile, his eyes twinkling with vindication. "Kawhi, would you care to explain this footage?" Weiner asked, his voice professional but unable to completely hide a note of amusement. "What we just saw seems to contradict what you stated earlier about defending LeBron being no different than guarding a normal player." All eyes in the studio were fixed on Leonard, waiting for his response. The normally unflappable star was experiencing a rare moment of visible discomfort. He cleared his throat before speaking. Defensive strategies always require taking the opponent seriously, he said carefully, choosing his words with precision. In team meetings, you always prepare for the worst-case scenario. LeBron, still smiling, interjected, "So which is the truth, Kawhi? What you said in that meeting, or what you told us on live television just moments ago?" A ripple of laughter spread through the studio audience. Kawhi Leonard found himself in an unusual position, at a loss for words. Weiner, sensing the perfect opportunity to expand on the dramatic moment, shared additional context. "According to the information we've received, this video is just a small portion of a roughly 20-minute meeting. The person who sent us this footage, who claims to work within the Clippers organization, indicates that throughout the meeting, Leonard repeatedly emphasized how challenging it is to defend LeBron. The cameras captured LeBron's reaction, a subtle nod of appreciation for this confirmation of what he already knew, that elite competitors like Kawhi Leonard respected his game far more in private than they sometimes acknowledged publicly. With remarkable poise, LeBron stepped in to offer Leonard a graceful exit from the awkward situation. "Look, Kawhi, everyone speaks differently to the media and in public than they do behind closed doors. I get that, but we players know what really happens on the court. You respect my game, and I certainly respect yours. When we face each other, we push each other to be better, and that's what makes the game great." Kawhi accepted the olive branch with a slight nod. Weiner, recognizing the need to pivot the conversation, introduced a new topic. "After that fascinating footage, perhaps we could discuss some of the most memorable matchups between you two. LeBron, what would you say was your most significant game against Kawhi?" As the program continued, the viral moment had already begun spreading across social media. Clips of Leonard's contradictory statements were being shared millions of times, with hashtags like Kawhi contradiction, stopping LeBron, and rivals face-to-face trending worldwide. Sports networks were already assembling panels of experts to analyze the fascinating exchange. In the TNT studios, the Inside the NBA crew was watching the program live, with Charles Barkley nearly falling out of his chair laughing. "Kawhi just got caught in 4K, he exclaimed. "You can't say LeBron is easy to guard and then have video of you saying the exact opposite." Shaquille O'Neal added between fits of laughter, "That's why you should always tell the truth. The camera is always watching, baby." Back on the NBA TV set, the program had shifted to discussing career highlights and mutual respect. But the damage to Leonard's typically consistent image had been done. For perhaps the first time in his career, the famously stoic star had been caught in a public contradiction that humanized him in an unexpected way. As the hour-long special approached its conclusion, Weiner addressed the elephant in the room one final time. "Before we wrap up, I have to ask, Kawhi, has this experience tonight changed your perspective on how you'll approach media appearances in the future?" A ripple of laughter spread through the audience. Leonard, having had time to collect himself, displayed rare self-awareness. "Maybe I'll stick to no comment more often," he said, the faintest hint of a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Even LeBron chuckled at this. "That's probably wise," he said. "I've learned the hard way that everything we say gets analyzed from every possible angle." When the program ended and the cameras stopped rolling, LeBron and Kawhi shook hands professionally. As they moved off stage away from the microphones, Leonard did something rare. He smiled slightly and leaned toward LeBron. "We're giving the media too much material, aren't we?" he whispered. LeBron laughed. "Always. But I'll see you on the court. That's where we do our real talking." The two superstars left the studio, leaving a media storm in their wake. The next day's sports headlines were predictable. Leonard's contradiction is stopping James impossible or easy. LeBron, still smiling, interjected, "So which is the truth, Kawhi? What you said in that meeting, or what you told us on live television just moments ago?" A ripple of laughter spread through the studio audience. Kawhi Leonard found himself in an unusual position, at a loss for words. Weiner, sensing the perfect opportunity to expand on the dramatic moment, shared additional context. "According to the information we've received, this video is just a small portion of a roughly 20-minute meeting. The person who sent us this footage, who claims to work within the Clippers organization, indicates that throughout the meeting, Leonard repeatedly emphasized how challenging it is to defend LeBron. The cameras captured LeBron's reaction, a subtle nod of appreciation for this confirmation of what he already knew, that elite competitors like Kawhi Leonard respected his game far more in private than they sometimes acknowledged publicly. With remarkable poise, LeBron stepped in to offer Leonard a graceful exit from the awkward situation. "Look, Kawhi, everyone speaks differently to the media and in public than they do behind closed doors. I get that, but we players know what really happens on the court. You respect my game, and I certainly respect yours. When we face each other, we push each other to be better, and that's what makes the game great." Kawhi accepted the olive branch with a slight nod. Weiner, recognizing the need to pivot the conversation, introduced a new topic. "After that fascinating footage, perhaps we could discuss some of the most memorable matchups between you two. LeBron, what would you say was your most significant game against Kawhi?" As the program continued, the viral moment had already begun spreading across social media. Clips of Leonard's contradictory statements were being shared millions of times, with hashtags like Kawhi contradiction, stopping LeBron, and rivals face-to-face trending worldwide. Sports networks were already assembling panels of experts to analyze the fascinating exchange. In the TNT studios, the Inside the NBA crew was watching the program live, with Charles Barkley nearly falling out of his chair laughing. "Kawhi just got caught in 4K, he exclaimed. "You can't say LeBron is easy to guard and then have video of you saying the exact opposite." Shaquille O'Neal added between fits of laughter, "That's why you should always tell the truth. The camera is always watching, baby." Back on the NBA TV set, the program had shifted to discussing career highlights and mutual respect. But the damage to Leonard's typically consistent image had been done. For perhaps the first time in his career, the famously stoic star had been caught in a public contradiction that humanized him in an unexpected way. As the hour-long special approached its conclusion, Weiner addressed the elephant in the room one final time. "Before we wrap up, I have to ask, Kawhi, has this experience tonight changed your perspective on how you'll approach media appearances in the future?" A ripple of laughter spread through the audience. Leonard, having had time to collect himself, displayed rare self-awareness. "Maybe I'll stick to no comment more often," he said, the faintest hint of a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Even LeBron chuckled at this. "That's probably wise," he said. "I've learned the hard way that everything we say gets analyzed from every possible angle." When the program ended and the cameras stopped rolling, LeBron and Kawhi shook hands professionally. As they moved off stage away from the microphones, Leonard did something rare. He smiled slightly and leaned toward LeBron. "We're giving the media too much material, aren't we?" he whispered. LeBron laughed. "Always. But I'll see you on the court. That's where we do our real talking." The two superstars left the studio, leaving a media storm in their wake. The next day's sports headlines were predictable. "Leonard's contradiction is stopping James impossible or easy." Within hours of the program's conclusion, the internet had transformed the moment into countless memes. Side-by-side images of public Kawhi claiming LeBron was easy to defend versus private Kawhi saying he was unstoppable spread across all social platforms. NBA Twitter had a field day, with current and former players joining the conversation. Draymond Green tweeted, "There's the Kawhi we all know from the locker room." Joel Embiid posted, "Now we know why Kawhi never talks." Even Michael Jordan's son Marcus weighed in. "Dad always said, LeBron is unstoppable when he wants to be. Looks like Kawhi agrees." Privately, just 3 hours after the program aired, Kawhi Leonard's management company issued a statement. Kawhi's comments were taken out of context. Defending against any great player, including LeBron James, is a significant challenge that requires specific strategies. Kawhi has always had the utmost respect for LeBron and his game. The statement did little to quell the media frenzy. Sports talk shows dedicated entire segments to analyzing the contradictory statements and what they revealed about both player relationships and the public personas athletes construct. On ESPN's First Take, Stephen A. Smith delivered one of his trademark impassioned monologues. "This is the most extraordinary moment I've seen in Kawhi Leonard's career. A man who is always quiet, always consistent, makes contradictory statements about LeBron James on national television, then gets exposed by his own meeting footage. This is unprecedented not just in basketball but in all of sports media." His co-host Molly Karim, asked the question on everyone's mind: do you think this will change their relationship on the court? Absolutely not, Smith responded emphatically. These are professionals at the highest level. If anything, this adds another layer to their rivalry, another storyline for fans to follow. The next Lakers-Clippers game just became must-see TV. The Clippers organization also released a statement regarding the leaked video, announcing they had launched an internal investigation. The statement emphasized that team meetings are considered confidential spaces where strategic discussions occur, and that they were committed to identifying those responsible for the breach. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver was asked about the incident during an unrelated press conference. With his characteristic diplomatic approach, Silver offered, "What we saw last night reflects the complex reality of professional sports in the digital age. Private comments can become public instantly. But ultimately, what makes our league special is the authentic competition between great players like LeBron and Kawhi, regardless of what's said off the court." The day following the broadcast, LeBron James shared a short video on his social media accounts. Filmed at the Lakers' practice facility, it showed him working on defensive drills alone on the court. At the end, he turned to the camera and delivered a simple message: "Talk is easy. The work happens here. See you on the court." The post received millions of likes and comments within hours. Other sports stars chimed in with supportive comments. Dwayne Wade, "Some truths never change." Kevin Durant. Sports psychologists and media experts were soon weighing in on the broader implications of the incident. Dr. Rebecca Chen, a renowned sports psychologist who had worked with several NBA teams, appeared on a popular basketball podcast to discuss the psychology behind the contradiction. "What we witnessed reveals something fascinating about elite competitors," Dr. Chen explained. "In private team settings, players typically acknowledge their opponent's strengths with complete honesty. This is necessary for effective game planning. But publicly, there's often a different narrative at play, one that serves both psychological and strategic purposes." "So you're saying Kawhi was engaging in psychological warfare?" the host asked. "Not necessarily intentionally," Dr. Chen clarified, "but downplaying an opponent's threat level publicly while preparing intensely for them privately is a common dichotomy in high-level sports. What made this situation unique was seeing both sides exposed simultaneously." The fascination with the incident extended beyond sports media into broader cultural conversations about authenticity and public persona. The New Yorker published an article titled "The Kawhi Paradox: Public Stoicism, Private Candor, and the Masks We Wear," which used the incident as a jumping-off point to explore how public figures navigate different social contexts. Meanwhile, both the Lakers and Clippers organizations tried to minimize distractions as they prepared for their upcoming games. Lakers head coach Darvin Ham was asked about the incident after a team practice. "Look, we're focused on winning basketball games," Ham said, clearly trying to downplay the situation. "What happened on that TV show doesn't affect our preparation or mindset. LeBron is a professional who's seen everything in this league. This is just noise." Clippers head coach Tyronn Lue took a similar approach when questioned by reporters. "We've addressed the situation internally. Kawhi remains focused on basketball as he always is. We're moving forward." Despite these attempts to shift focus back to basketball, the story maintained its momentum. Media requests for both James and Leonard reached unprecedented levels, with international outlets now joining the frenzy. Both players' teams strengthened their protective barriers, limiting access and availability. Behind the scenes, NBA TV executives could hardly contain their excitement. The premiere episode of Rivals Face to Face had generated more buzz than they could have possibly imagined. Overnight ratings showed it was the most watched original program in the network's history, with social media engagement metrics off the charts. Plans for future episodes were immediately accelerated, with a long list of superstar pairings being considered. 2 weeks after the infamous episode aired, the Lakers and Clippers faced off at Crypto.com Arena in a highly anticipated Los Angeles derby. Media interest in the matchup was extraordinary, with credentials requests 3 times the normal number. Game tickets were selling on the secondary market for triple their face value. During pre-game warm-ups, LeBron and Kawhi acknowledged each other with brief nods. Professional as always, composed as ever. The game itself was a basketball spectacle. LeBron James delivered a masterful performance with 38 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists, while Kawhi Leonard responded with 35 points and 12 rebounds. The Lakers secured a narrow 11-12-9 victory on a last-second three-pointer by James over Leonard's outstretched hand, no less. The symbolism of the game-winning shot wasn't lost on anyone. As the arena erupted, cameras captured LeBron's celebratory roar while Kawhi maintained his trademark stoicism even in defeat. The image of the two competitors in that moment, one expressive, one impassive, perfectly encapsulated their contrasting public personas. In the post-game press conference, a reporter inevitably asked Kawhi about his comments from the TV special. After tonight's game, do you still think defending LeBron is easy? Leonard, his face as expressionless as ever, responded, "LeBron is one of the best players in the world. Defending him is one of basketball's greatest challenges. He proved that again tonight on the court." The same question was directed to LeBron, who smiled and said, "Some things get settled on the court. I've always preferred to let my game do the talking. Kawhi is an amazing player, a champion, and every matchup between us is a battle." In the years that followed, basketball historians and analysts would remember this incident as one of the most fascinating media moments in modern NBA history. The rare crack in Kawhi Leonard's typically calm and consistent image became a part of fan lore. However, on the court, the mutual respect and intense competition between the two superstars continued. Whatever was said in media spotlights, the reality on the hardwood never changed. Perhaps the most lasting impact came from an unexpected source. The rivals' face-to-face format became one of NBA TV's most successful programs, with superstar pairings generating consistent viral moments and revelatory conversations. Athletes became more careful about maintaining consistency between their public statements and private assessments, aware that in the digital age, contradictions were only one leaked video away from exposure. As for Kawhi Leonard, he gradually leaned into the incident with surprising good humor. During a playoff press conference the following season, when asked about defending another superstar, he paused, gave the faintest hint of a smile and said, "No comment. I've learned my lesson." The room erupted in laughter, and for a brief moment the most stoic star in the NBA showed that even he could appreciate the irony of his most memorable media moment. In the months following the viral confrontation, NBA TV's rivals face-to-face continued to grow in popularity, featuring pairings like Kevin Durant and Giannis Antetokounmpo, Stephen Curry and Ja Morant, and Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. Yet none of these episodes managed to capture the raw, unscripted drama of the inaugural LeBron-Kawhi encounter. Network executives privately acknowledged they had struck gold with that first pairing, benefiting from a perfect storm of circumstances that would be nearly impossible to replicate. The incident had unexpected ripple effects throughout the basketball world. NBA media training for players across the league was quietly revamped, with several teams incorporating specific modules on message consistency and private versus public statements. Younger players were shown edited clips of the Leonard-James confrontation as a cautionary tale about the permanent nature of both public statements and supposedly private team meetings. Sports media studies programs at universities began using the incident as a case study in their curriculum. Professor Javier Morales, who taught sports media and culture at USC, developed an entire lecture around what he called the Leonard paradox. What makes this moment so fascinating from a media studies perspective, Morales explained in an interview with The Athletic, is how it perfectly encapsulates the contradiction between authentic private assessment and public persona management. Athletes are constantly navigating these dual realities, but rarely do we get such a clear window into the disparity between them. The psychological aspects of the incident continued to generate discussion among experts. Elizabeth Chen, a prominent sports psychologist, published a paper in the Journal of Sports Psychology titled "Cognitive Dissonance in Elite Athletes: Public Statements versus Private Assessments." The paper used the Leonard-James incident as its primary case study, analyzing the complex psychological mechanisms that allow competitors to simultaneously respect their opponents privately while downplaying their abilities publicly. This behavior isn't necessarily conscious deception, Dr. Chen wrote. Rather, it represents a compartmentalization that helps athletes maintain competitive psychological advantages. The remarkable aspect of the Leonard case was witnessing both compartments exposed simultaneously, creating a rare moment of cognitive dissonance that played out on national television. 6 months after the infamous episode aired, ESPN produced a special 30-minute documentary titled To Kawhi's The Public and Private Leonard. The program featured interviews with former teammates, coaches, and media personalities who offered insights into Leonard's dual persona. San Antonio Spurs head coach Greg Popovich, who rarely granted interviews, provided one of the documentary's most memorable quotes. "Kawhi has always been a man of few words publicly," Popovich said, "but in team settings he's thoughtful, analytical, and surprisingly vocal about strategy. The public only saw one side of him until that TV show exposed the other. Neither side is fake, they're just different contexts requiring different approaches." Toronto Raptors president Masai Ujiri, who had orchestrated the trade that brought Leonard to Toronto for their championship run, added, "In our team meetings during the 2019 championship season, Kawhi was incredibly detailed and expressive about opponents' strengths and weaknesses. He would break down LeBron's game with tremendous respect and precision. That's the Kawhi we knew behind closed doors." For their part, both LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard moved on professionally, though the moment had affected them differently. James, long accustomed to media scrutiny, incorporated the incident into his personal brand narrative. During an interview with GQ magazine, when asked about the most surprising media moment of his career, he referenced the incident with characteristic good humor. "After 20 years in the spotlight, not much surprises me anymore," James said, "but that moment with Kawhi was definitely unique. In some ways it was validating, hearing how he really felt about defending me when he thought the cameras weren't rolling. Every competitor wants that kind of respect from their peers, even if they don't always express it publicly." Leonard, meanwhile, became even more selective about his media appearances, though those close to him noted a subtle evolution in his approach. His longtime friend and former teammate, Jeremy Castleberry, who had joined Leonard's coaching staff, observed the change. "Kawhi has always been Kawhi. He's never going to be the most talkative guy in the room," Castleberry told The Ringer in a rare interview. But that experience taught him something about authenticity. He realized it's sometimes better to say nothing than to say something that doesn't align with your true assessment. If you watch his interviews now, they're still brief, but there's a new level of authenticity to them. This observation proved accurate. In subsequent seasons, Leonard's media appearances, while still infrequent and concise, displayed a new quality that journalists came to appreciate. Rather than offering generic athlete speak or contradicting his private assessments, he either provided genuinely thoughtful responses or simply declined to comment. This evolved approach earned him renewed respect among basketball media members, with several noting that a brief, authentic Leonard answer was worth more than 10 minutes of standard sports cliché. The incident's impact extended to fan perception as well. Somewhat surprisingly, the public contradiction actually humanized Leonard in the eyes of many fans. Prior to the incident, his robot-like demeanor and minimal public personality had made him seem almost two-dimensional to casual observers. Witnessing his rare moment of discomfort followed by his subtle acknowledgement of the situation added complexity to his public image. The basketball relationship between James and Leonard continued to evolve as well. Their on-court matchups maintained the same intensity, but observers noted subtle changes in their interactions. Pre-game handshakes lasted a beat longer. Post-game conversations extended beyond the perfunctory. During one All-Star weekend, they were spotted having dinner together at an exclusive Los Angeles restaurant, a meeting that set social media ablaze with speculation. When asked about this developing relationship by reporters, LeBron offered insight into their connection. "Great competitors understand each other in ways that others can't. Kawhi and I have battled for years, pushed each other to be better. There's a respect that comes from that regardless of what happens in front of cameras or microphones." Perhaps the most fitting postscript came 3 years after the original incident, when NBA TV celebrated the anniversary with a special reunion episode. Both Leonard and James agreed to participate, demonstrating how far they had come from that tense encounter. The program opened with a replay of the original contradiction, followed by both players watching and reacting to the footage together. When asked how he felt seeing the clip years later, Leonard displayed his evolution with a response that surprised viewers with its self-awareness and candor. "Looking back, it's a reminder that authenticity matters," he said, his voice still quiet but more engaging than in years past. "I got caught trying to create a competitive narrative that didn't match what I really believed. The truth is, defending LeBron has always been one of the greatest challenges in basketball. Sometimes you learn lessons in public ways." James, sitting beside him, nodded appreciatively at the honest assessment. "What I respected most was how Kawhi handled the aftermath," LeBron added. "No long explanations or excuses. He adjusted and moved forward. That's what professionals do." The reunion special concluded with a segment that perfectly encapsulated the legacy of the original incident. NBA TV had arranged for both superstars to analyze game footage together, breaking down the tactical and physical challenges of their matchups over the years. The resulting conversation, Basketball Genius, Recognizing Basketball Genius, provided viewers with unprecedented insight into elite competition at the highest level. As Leonard meticulously explained his defensive approach against James, pointing out the subtle positioning and anticipation required, and as James acknowledged the unique challenges Leonard's defense presented, basketball fans witnessed the authentic basketball dialogue that had been happening in private team rooms all along, now finally shared with the public. For basketball fans, the incident provided a rare glimpse behind the curtain of elite competition, a reminder that beneath the public narratives and carefully managed statements lies a more nuanced reality, where rivals can simultaneously be fierce adversaries and mutual admirers, each pushing the other to new heights of excellence in their shared pursuit of greatness. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video. What do you think about this topic? Please write in the comments below. See you in the next video.